was a pretty unconvincing first round in the EFL Championship for Ipswich, Southampton and Leicester, the three newly relegated Year 1 parachute teams. Ipswich needed an interesting late penalty to get a draw over at Birmingham. Southampton needed 2 stoppage time goals to get past Wrexham. And Leicester went behind against Sheffield Wednesday, and it was a late winner and a red card for the Owls that maybe helped them grab 3 points. Does this mean we're not going to see the normal levels of dominance we have done in recent years from the newly relegated teams coming down from the Premier League? I discussed this over on the Sportsman podcast with Simon Lillibury and Gab Sutton on Monday. Here is a clip. If you want the full conversation, it'll appear up there at the end of this video.
Ben, you were handed a little surprised when you were at your child's birthday party and you checked the
yeah.
Leicester City Sheffield Wednesday score.
I was. I had it all set up after a summer of worrying about Sheffield Wednesday that they were going to go off to Leicester and get absolutely walloped. And I switched my phone on, which I only did once during my child's birthday party. And it said Leicester City 0, Sheffield Wednesday 1. And I'm like, oh my goodness, what's happening here? I don't know if you want to come to the parachute teams at large, but they all struggled a bit. And we've spoken about August being a difficult time with the churn for the parachute teams. That was so for Leicester, and we've already spoken about Sheffield United, who obviously struggled the most. But yeah, Leicester turned it around. But I think, I don't know if you guys agree, the story is Sheffield Wednesday were much better than we imagined, and the abject disaster and massive defeats we've been forecasting every week, well, we didn't get one in the first round.
I think the thing is, for all the problems they have on the pitch, the first 11 you look at is an 11 of players with some championship
and then
quality.
siege mentality, Simon, as well.
And I think Pedersen deserves massive credit for kind of harnessing that.
Yeah.
Getting the first goal in that game, what a moment for Sheffield Wednesday fans. I know someone went and he said it was one of the best games he's ever been to, despite the late goal they conceded, because there was just that feeling.
Yeah.
And of course the protest that happened in the first 5 minutes.
Sure.
Brilliant seeing, brilliant the reception it got as well.
Yeah, absolutely. That moment where Sheffield Wednesday fans came in and Leicester City fans were applauding them, I think that they showed their class as a football club that day, that's for sure. I think for Wednesday, it's nice to see them have a nice performance, a spirited performance, a goal to just give them a bit of something different, I suppose, to think about. But I do feel like over the course of the season, you look at their bench, it was so youthful, and they don't have a proper championship squad, I don't think. Actually, the first 11, in places is okay, but I think that lack of depth because of the off-field issues is going to be a problem for them.
Picked up a couple of injuries as well, and Barry Bannon sent off as well. So it's hardly an ideal start, is it?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a very long, difficult season for Sheffield Wednesday. I think if you offered Wednesday right now the chance to get Dave Fonchansiri at that football club, but have the right new owners to come in for a season in League One, I think they would take that.
Absolutely. You mentioned, Ben, about the relegate teams with parachute payments. They all conceded first this weekend. What is going on? Is this just August standard for parachute payment teams or slow starters?
It seems to be the case now, doesn't it? That you come down and you've got these big assets and, excuse me, rather than tracking with, say, a Swansea or a Norwich or a Birmingham, we've got the business done early. It feels like you're more in line with what the Premier League teams are doing, which then tends to go closer to the end of the window. We know the Premier League teams, the bigger deals tend to go later, and the Premier League teams sort of set the tone, then they know which players they can loan out to the Championship. Therefore, everything is downstream of the Premier League. And it feels like the proximity and the attachment to the Premier League of the parachute teams means you have this kind of delayed churn. And also, I feel this from an Ipswich point of view, there's a bit of a sense that you have to pick very carefully what you're doing. And when you're first world problems, right? When you're going to be signing players for multiple millions, there's not that opportunity to say, oh, well, yeah, we can do that deal and see how that works out. You can't do that. And then as well, Simon, these kind of players that have appeared in the Championship this week, El Canouse, Sargent, Amari Hutchinson didn't appear, but we think he's about to disappear. There's a few players that actually were on the pitch that we still think will be sold and then will be the lead domino in the
Harry
transfers.
Winks at Leicester, just to add to that.
There you go. Yeah. In these transfers all happening. So
It was Burnley, wasn't it, last year? Beat Luton 4-1 away in that opening game, and their team was just unrecognisable.
and you
from the one
mentioned
that,
Ward-Prowse, who
Yes.
played a game for
Yeah.
Sheffield, and Smodics last year played off the bench for Blackburn before moving. So yes, all the fans of the other teams are going to be going, oh, boo-hoo, parachute teams, especially when we come on to Southampton and the subs they brought on. But that's the world we live in, and that's the issues they have at the start of the season in August. And make hay of other teams, score points, get in front of them.
make hay while the sun shines. Beautiful link there, Ben. Let's come on to Southampton, Gab, because their game was incredible. What a welcome to the Championship for Will Still. They got the job done very, very late on. 2 late goals. Wrexham deserve some credit, though, don't they?
Yeah, absolutely. I think because Wrexham are a global name, it's easy to...
Just check yourself. It's incredible you're saying that. It's brilliant, isn't it?
Yeah. It's easy to forget that they're on a certain process where they've just won back-to-back promotions to the Championship. And although they have got the funds to get their squad to a certain level, they've not necessarily had the time because and so I think it's going to be a multi-phase process. So for them to deliver such a competitive performance where in the first 70 minutes they were neck and neck with Southampton, and I think they had a penalty shout at 1-0 where they could have taken the game away from their opponents. I think Phil Parkinson can take a lot of credit for that, and Josh Windass I thought was excellent as well. But then in the last 20 minutes, the substitutes for Southampton, bringing on Damien Downs, as you mentioned, that makes a difference, and I think that that strength in depth paid off in the end. But from Southampton's point of view, I think they're going to need to improve.
Yeah, Will Still loved it at the end. I think that's what he needs to create at Southampton, that kind of connection with the fans, which was so obviously missing last season when they got 12 points in the Premier League. But the subs they brought on, Ben, you alluded to it earlier. It's like, oh my word, how is anyone meant to compete with that when they're bringing the likes of Cameron Archer off the bench? It's absolutely insane.
And Simon, that's the back end of my conversation about the parachute teams in August being difficult. Coming on to Ipswich, they didn't lose. Southampton won. Leicester won. It's only Sheffield United that couldn't get the win. And that's the, if we are going to be I know you and I have discussed this at length, if we are going to be trending towards again 90, 95 plus points, that's what's going to set the tone, isn't it? Them winning every week. But yeah, nice to go Damien Downs and Fernandez, and then Archer came in, who scored loads of goals for Middlesbrough, and then Ross Stewart came in as well. Just on Wrexham as well, I wonder whether the Akpom deal that happened last night as we're recording may facilitate Broadhead maybe going into Wrexham. We'll see what happens there.
Absolutely. We must talk about Friday night as well, because it was actually Ipswich versus Birmingham.
Yeah.
Gab, what did you make of it? I mean, it was wild, it was bitty, it wasn't as free-flowing as I imagined, but it was entertaining, wasn't it, to say the least?
Yeah, I think from a Birmingham perspective, I felt like we were possibly shaded it on the night. I think we probably deserved the win. I really liked our work against the ball. I thought Kyogo Furuhashi was, with his movement, was outstanding.
He was so good. He was so good.
And then you look to Clara and Newman, who you're talking about, Ben, like they're such absolute units, and I don't think we're going to concede a lot of goals. And then Paik and Iwata are just a joy to watch. So, yeah, really exciting, because I think for a lot of Birmingham City fans, there was definite confidence about what was possible this season after smashing the Football League points record last year. But I think to see us compete with another Championship team, the promotion favourites, I think is really encouraging, even though it ended in a bit of late heartache.
What about you, Ben?
Yeah, I agree with Gab at large there. And essentially, you've got the most hyped team, according to the bookmakers, Ipswich the favourites. And we kind of know that the bookies' odds, you're waiting for some information to come and you're doing it all on paper at that point. And Birmingham, essentially the most talked about team. And essentially, Birmingham lived up to their hype and Ipswich didn't live up to their hype. So I think if you're a Birmingham fan, you're like, fantastic, this team's going to compete. And I'm sure there's a lot of managers sitting there thinking, right, when am I going to St Andrews? That doesn't look too easy. If you're an Ipswich fan, the bad news is that the squad doesn't much look ready, and Akpom's obviously come in since that game and we're recording now. Looks like there's work to do at right back. Looks like the central midfield needs to be kind of
couple of
out.
Wingers to come back as well, Ben, that's going to make it, because he brought on Al Hamadi to play on the right wing, which I'm not sure that was necessarily the best fit. So I think Burns to come back is going to make a difference, isn't it?
Yeah. It's a good thing if there's a lot of work to do and you still got out of dodge there with a point from an Ipswich point of view, I'm spin the positive for both. And yeah, Birmingham, I think a lot of people were like, there's a lot of hype. And for me, I'm sat there going, okay, they look good.
Final point on this game. Penalty, yes or no?
No.
I mean, by the letter of the law, it's yes, but I don't want the reward for somebody jumping, defending at a corner, and the ball grazing their hand to be a free shot at goal for 12 yards. So you can argue it by the letter of the law, but it feels like the punishment for the crime doesn't necessarily fit.
I agree with that. I think it probably is a penalty, but very, very hard.